Hello, and welcome to another episode of Ranked. Today's a bit disjointed because I played some Ranked, and then played some Party, then played some Ranked, but we're just going to skip over the Party matches. They're not really important. So our first Ranked match is against Jet, a Twintel player. Twintel is still my weakness. We go to Sky Arena. So what I'm trying to do is, be more aggressive, or at least more in the face of players. However, I'm starting to realize that might not always be the best strategy, especially against Twintel, because if you're in her face and she slows down your punches, she can almost instantly punish you, and there's not much you can do. If you're about mid-range or even long-range, even if she knows, oh, you're punching, I better block, or oh, you're grabbing, I better punch, you might still be able to escape the punish. So, in the future, I'll probably try and stay more mid-range with Twintel than close range, if I can, at least. But anyway, let's continue the match. So this player probably could have gotten away with a lot more just YOLO grabs like that, since I do think I shielded a lot. I don't remember, but either way the grabs still would have hit. And because Mechanica is so big, it's pretty easy to hit her with things such as the Thunderbird and other curving arms. I feel like that rush was robbed from me because it didn't connect. Oh well. And then she even did the insta-counter and it still didn't continue connecting. However, both her arms and her shield are badly damaged, so I'm really trying to either break the shield or break an arm, but I do not succeed in that. Until then, as you saw, I broke and knocked it down at the same time. She's able to land the rush by slowing down my arm, which prevents it not only from coming back, or not only for her to react, but also for it not to come back while she begins her rush. So that's inconvenient. I'm on my last bit of life and I'm wondering, oh, maybe I'll be able to pull through. But I ended up getting a bird to the shoulder, and Jet takes round 1. Round 2, I switched to double fun chucks. I still sort of not sure what to use for my third arm, so I was just fun chucks, why not? They seem to work on Master Mummy, so maybe they'll work on Mechanica. I break the arm and I'm luckily able to actually punish, because, sometimes I'm not able to do that. But one thing I'm doing with the fun chucks, and you'll see this a couple times, is while one arm is out, once it's extended enough, you can do a mini hop just to get a bit more mobility. But I'm also using this mini hop in order to get the wide, more shieldy version of the fun chuck, which allows it to be more likely to deflect or cancel out one of her other arms, which will make it harder for her to punish. So that's what I'm doing here. And I use 2 mini hops there. And I am able to land the rush. It's one of my favorite things to do. I don't get to do it that often, but when I do, it's always satisfying. So, yeah, the fun chucks are giving her a hard time, but she's Twintel, so what's the worst that could happen, honestly? I definitely could have gotten a grab there, but she has a rush. I didn't go for it. And then that's one of the things that makes electricity so powerful, is even though it might be harder to land due to electric arms generally being slower, you only need to hit them one time, and they're in for a lot of pain. So that's always inconvenient. So I get a pretty lucky grab there. Not sure if they could have deflected that or not. And I have the rush too, so I just go for it knowing, oh, she's probably going to throw out the Thunderbird too. And I'm able to get a KO with just a sliver of health left. So we go on to round 3, and I switched to 1 nade just because even though the double fun chucks worked, they didn't work really well, and I know how to use the nade better. Oh, that's another thing I want to point out. With Mechanica, something that's interesting is with her grab. This is a good way to get back onto the top level of Sky Arena. If you grab, you can dash. And also, if you dash after a grab, your arms will be charged, while if you just fall down from a grab, your arms won't charge up. So, with Mechanica, 99% of the time, it's better to dash with a grab. That rush I probably could have escaped if I had dashed backwards, but instead I jumped, which caused me to take the hit. That's my favorite mind game, ice mind games. That was the most disjointed, like, grab that should not have landed. That Thunderbird totally should have hit that grab, but it didn't. And this Thunderbird is just... Thunderbirds almost always give me a hard time, unless somebody doesn't know how to use them. So I'm able to land the rush. It was definitely prediction, since... just like me, this player doesn't always know when to stop putting on the pressure when your opponent has rush. I don't mean to drop off to the bottom level, but... and I'm able to save myself with the explosion, but alas, I get shocked, which is my demise. So, Jet takes the win, and they did not rematch, so move on to Shantae. I hope that's how it's pronounced. I'm sorry if I butchered it. So they're using dragons, which I don't see that often actually, but what do you know? So again, especially with this player and my plan to be more aggressive, I try and get in their face because dragons are not as effective up close as they are from afar. But this player, like, is really good at dodging. See, look at right here. I break their arm, yet instead of me punishing them, they're still able to get a hit on me, just because of how blindly aggressive I'm just being. Aggressive without thought, like an animal. And another rush that I feel was stolen from me. Oh well. And I end up eating a grab after that. And this is another thing I dislike about the dragons is you can't really run away with them from your hover. See, like, I was hovering away and it still got me. I think it's a combination of her metal body is just so big and the dragon laser in charge is also pretty big. And they're also doing a really good job aiming that laser so my arm doesn't cancel out, it just flies by. And I just barely get nicked by that cracker shot and they take round one. So switch to double fun chucks because it worked against the other one. Maybe it'll work here too. So I am able to get the rush there. And I knew that my fun chucks would win against pretty much everything she had. It would beat the dragon and the pop or cracker. So that grab was a huge mistake. And they get a good grab there. I probably could have canceled that out had I continued being aggressive. Funny enough. And they're keeping me away. These poppers and the dragon shots are slightly pushing me back as well, which is really annoying. If that rush hadn't landed, I think I would have thrown my controller through the screen, because man, that would have sucked. Anyway, this Twin Tail player had me pretty salty, just because they kept just slipping by everything I threw at them. Just look at this. They're just dancing by everything. They get a grab there. I wasn't trying to fake a disconnect. I was just like taking a breather because they didn't seem to be attacking me. They're just dodging. And then they rush. I'm able to dodge the first strike. So I go for the grab, and they jump out of the way, and they're able to hit me with this sort of cracker that I didn't even see until it came into view. So if they take the game, it's probably for the best that I didn't rematch just because of how I was getting a bit salty. Next game was against one of the players I often see in Piggy Bank's stream, Blaze Gamer. So they were using Springman and Double Roaster. Not too common I see people using Double Roaster, but honestly I think in the right hands it can be extremely good, since Roasters take some precision aiming to land. So we're doing this sort of patty cake thing. I've never been a fan of it, but it's inevitable. If I want to use medium arms, so should they. So this was pretty lucky. I was sort of out of options once I had jumped and dashed, so I decided to go for the rush, and the Slamamander was able to curve around and hit them. Nice shot. They're on their last bit though, so I just need one more hit. I'm able to slap them. So I try to go for the startup grab there, but don't get it. I've also heard that that grab is actually called the pineapple grab, based on one of the players' pineapple freak, or pineapple freaks, I think is what he's called. So that's pretty neat. They switched over to Slamamander, making this more or less a ditto, since I think the arms make more of an impact than the character. Anyway, they're able to slap me, keep me out of their face. I'm also trying to be careful because I know that odds are whoever rushes first is actually going to be the one to land it, and not whoever does that. Or I guess in this case, since I was able to dodge out of the way, the Slamamander curved around. And you did see, they did try to jump out of the way, but they jumped the wrong way. They jumped to my right, their left, but if they had jumped to my left, their right, they probably could have escaped it and maybe even rushed me back. But as I was saying, because of this, whoever rushes first would most likely win in that engagement, assuming neither player dodged. However, they're sort of whittling me down, and they really only need one more hit. However, I know it's possible to make a comeback, but unfortunately now that they have permanently charged arms, I'm in a world for pain. So I go for the grab, but they slap me and take round 2. So on to round 3, I have rush charged up from the start, and I switch to double nades because it's got a good rush. Oh, and also just because I really don't like dittos. Anyway, here's one thing I'd like to point out, is that jumping in the neutral game, or just whenever your opponent has rush and you don't, trying to jump just for no reason isn't usually a good idea, unless you're using a character who has an ability specifically for the air, like Ribbon Girl or Ninjara, because rush will trump all options unless like you have double light arms and they have double heavy arms. Because if they attack, your rush will plow through their attack or grab, and if they dodge, your rush will just catch them as they descend. Anyway, unless you have a boomerang that gets lucky and knocks them out of their rush, which can happen, but in that case, just do what I do, and as I rush, I also jumped here to avoid any possible punishes from the Roaster or the Slamamander. Anyway, match continues, and I don't know if I've taken any damage, but obviously I'm going to in a moment, just there. And they also get a good grab. That's one thing I like about explosions, is how it knocks people out of rushes sometimes. Even experienced players will fall for it, and I know for sure Blaze isn't an experienced player, but when I say that I mean more like rank 20s even still fall for it. And I definitely should have rushed there, but I didn't have it. I'm able to get a nice clean hit for the knockout though to take the game. Next up is, it's either Evie or Eve or Ev. I'm just going to call him Ev because it's easier to say. So we're going back to Sky Arena. I know this is Simongo's favorite stage to go to. They're using double boomerang, which is not a very common choice. I start off by, like, this boomerang especially just like confused me because it went behind me and still hit me. What? However, one thing about boomerangs is whenever they hit the shield, they fall down, similar to the Thunderbird. So that's one thing you can abuse when fighting people using boomerangs, is how long it takes for them to recover when they hit a shield. Advice to any Springtron players, don't do that. Just stop. I hate saying that. I don't even know. Anyway, so that's one example of how long they take to come back. We're sort of keeping this long range because I think we're both kind of trying to be cautious about rushes. However, I'm able to punish their jump, although slightly late. Had I been any later, and they would have been able to shield that. But I'm able to take round 1. They have a rush to start, but I didn't think they were really going to use it, since sometimes you've got to be conservative with your rushes and be realistic. Like, hey, I've got 1 sliver of health left and they have a full health bar. There's no way I'm going to win this round without a huge, major comeback. But sometimes you've really just got to be bold and use the rushes, because sometimes getting the ball rolling, and do a little dance there, to try and bait a rush, and they do hit me with a rush later. Anyway, sometimes all you need to do to win is get the ball rolling. One match I recently had with Beamer, the first round I almost got a perfect with him. He was using max brass, and I was able to get the ball rolling from the start and keep it going throughout the match. In the second round, he almost got a perfect on me for the same reason. He was able to get the ball rolling and then just kept it going through the rest of the match by using Max's super armor and shockwave. Then the third round was really close. I forget who got the ball rolling, but one of us got it rolling and almost whittled the other away, and then they were able to stop the ball and whittle down the other before one of us was able to win. Anyway, didn't record it, sorry. So, we're both pretty low on health, as you can see here, and I'm playing extra defensively because I don't want to goof up, but I'm able to slap them and take the game. So let's move on to the rematch with Eevee, or Ev. First person to rematch. We're on Ramen Bowl. The stage is better than Sky Arena. It's about the same size, which is too bad, but at least it doesn't have the blinding sunlight or the 2 levels that you have to jump between. Not to mention, the outer level is the higher one, which is interesting. The stage is like an inverted Sky Arena. So I switched to double nades because I thought it would be the best choice. I don't even remember if I used a double nades last time. I could have rushed there doing that nade combo. He's being sent really high, and again I could have. Maybe not, the cameraman wasn't being very cooperative. There's all these times I could have rushed, and that I should have shielded instead of jumping. I think I just was a bit trigger happy there. He conditioned me into grabbing. Don't know if that was intentional, but it was smart either way. Anyway, I try to go for the rush, but I don't land it this time, and I'm not able to break the shield either. I am going, though, to show something kind of neat, is that... Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. Okay, so... what he probably tried to do there was punish me after the rush, which is a very common tactic. However, because of the multiple levels of Ramen Bowl, I was able to back away so his toasters would hit the ground instead of me, and because of the angle they didn't bounce up and hit me either. I'm bad. Alright, here we go. I'm being kind of aggressive here, and I break the arm. I go for the grab. The second grab somehow hits, but the first one they smartly punched through. Grab was a bad option, but I didn't want to repeat the twin tail thing in which I threw 2 punches, they both missed, and they managed to slip between them. So the nades are really good at making sharp angles. They're probably the sharpest curving gloves in the game, like, or maybe just the sharpest curving arms in general. Like, they can go the furthest if they're not already tied with the roaster. However, they're a bit bigger than the roasters, which means they can reach a bit further. That's also another reason I use them, is because they're fairly large. Anyway, I rush now knowing mine would beat out theirs. Had they, like, ran away or dodged out of the way, they probably could have escaped it. But, unfortunately, they did not. An interesting tactic I just thought of is, like, doing an aerial hover across the bottom level of Ramen Bowl and then just dropping down so their punches will go right over my head. Maybe I'll try that next time. Anyway, they're on a sliver of health left. I try to finish with style, but instead finish with a clean punch and take the game. So, good game to Jet, Shantae, Blaze, and Ev. Now let's move on to the next people, Mechanica and AM, who was quite a surprise to run into. Ironically, after I won against Mechanica, I got a badge congratulating me on winning 5 ranked matches in a row, only to then run into a very high-level ARMS player. But anyway, let's start off with our games against Mechanica. So I start off with a grab. There's a bit of lag, which frustrates me, like especially near the start, but it gets better over time. So in like the second and round of next games, there's less questionable things going on. Like there's not really much I can say here. Whenever there's lag, I just sort of have to flail around and hope for the best, because I have no idea how to play around lag whenever stuff like that's going on. Like, what even was that? That was so stolen. It should have hit. He's just dodging around and jumping. Cobra's pretty good at that, I guess. And now I'm getting kind of hit. I'm backing off because he has a rush, but I see I've almost got my rush charged too, so now that strategy's not as effective anymore. I'm trying to get up close. And again, this rush was really stolen from me. That definitely should have hit. I see that I have the life lead and I'm not expecting a rush, so I'm just keeping my distance and trying to stay out of range. I'm able to get the hit to confirm the win. And we're moving on to round 2. I switched to double nades because I think they're a bit more likely to hit than Slamamander when it comes to this lag, but I'm ending up just getting caught in my own explosions. I definitely should have been able to react to that, or maybe not, but whatever that was, I got hit by that, so good job. I rush here and do manage to hit the rush. There's another example of jumping, and I know I even jumped earlier and they didn't punish it, but not jumping while your opponent has rush, especially when you're up close to them. When you're far away, perhaps. Grab trade. So I see his arm is broken, so even if he blocks it, I would have been able to break it and win. And I am able to take round 2. Anyway, I think the lag sort of decreased significantly here, which is good, although we end up going to Sky Arena again. I also switched to the Kablammer in hopes to play less of that patty cake we did in the first round, because sometimes it's just so annoying when you end up playing patty cake. It also appears that Mechanica, while one of her arms is extended, cannot jump high enough to reach the second level of Sky Arena. One thing you might notice I'm doing a bit more in this match is if you tilt the Joy-Con backwards in punch, your punch will have a bit of height to it. I did it just there, and the point of that is to be able to catch him when he jumps. And although it's less noticeable on arms such as everything else besides glove arms, it's still very noticeable, and it's surprisingly good for catching jumpy characters. Like, Kid Cobra is good since his jump is wider than it is high, so you'll be able to catch him. But even characters like Ribbon Girl, who go up really high, you have a better chance catching them. Oh yeah, and I slipped to the switch to the Slamamander, because I figured it'd work better with the Kablammer at catching him as he's dashing, since it'll cover one side, forcing him to dash the other way, and if he dashes the wrong way, too bad. It's also good for catching the landings. The Kablammer's just going out there and doing its own thing, I suppose. So he manages to get a good grab on me out of the rush, and that time I think he actually did dodge it and it wasn't just the lag. We're pretty close, and we're able to slap him once, and he managed to bot me. I slap him again. Now I have the rush charged. I go ahead and use it again, but this time I'm aware that he's for sure gonna go for that grab again. So I jump dodge to get a little bit more momentum to be able to get out of the way of this grab here. And then I managed to slap him for the win. And our final game of the night is against AM, who, as I mentioned earlier, is a very high-level ARMS player. And they ruined my winning streak, of course. I go for the startup grab, doesn't land. I slap them, but I get hit by the roaster, and they're doing the Ribbon Girl dance. So right off the bat I shield from the ice, which is something that I need to not do as often later, because I think I shielded every single time, which ended up costing me a big time in the end. So one thing with Ribbon Girl is I don't fight that many Ribbon Girls. It makes it kind of hard to really know how to play against her, since, as you saw there, she has so many options to mix up her game. Most of the time, Ribbon Girl players will do the jump, dash, fast fall to have charged arms as much as possible, but also stay in the air. I'd like to point out something just now, but they can always mix it up by just adding one extra jump in the air. So if you try to punish their fast fall tendencies, oh well, now they're just going to add an extra jump every now and then, and you'll never really know what they're going to do. Anyway, so as I saw here, I saw, oh, they punished me dashing to the right. And that's one thing I do a lot with Mechanica, and I'm trying to get better at this, is I'll dash and then I'll commit to the dash. But as you saw here, I start by dashing left, but then dash right, because I knew she was going to aim the roaster to my left. Anyway, they're able to get the finishing blow with another good roaster, and we're on to round 2. I go for the grab again, but I go to the right this time, because that's the direction they went last time. They just jump, so whatever. I started off this round doing pretty good, actually, and I just used double nades because they're bigger and they seem better at catching her in the air, especially with the ability to tilt backwards to increase the height of them. So I rush here thinking they're probably going to punch with both arms like they have been doing every single time. That was weird. Ooh, I should not have grabbed that one. Even forgot I did that, but up close, it's very easy to punish punishes with rushes. And there's another example, just one extra jump will mix everything up. So this match is pretty close. They're able to pull through in the end, but I think I put up a pretty decent fight. And that's what I said earlier about I should not have shielded every single time I got iced, because then it would cost me. Had I realized that I had been doing that earlier, I would have been able to punch through, knock her down, and then I would have only had to hit her one more time. It would have been on a sort of last hit basis, and I might have been able to bring up to a third round. Anyway, good games to AM and Maramik. Unfortunately, AM didn't want to rematch, so that's going to be the last game of tonight. Thanks for watching. Bye.